Hello and welcome to another exciting, well, not so exciting, but hopefully interesting and enlightening episode of Ghettofabulous, Kings of War. Today, instead of a battle report or army review or anything, although uh, I'm planning on putting out in the next couple of days a review of 3rd edition and a separate specific focus on the Goblin army. This time we're going to talk about a painting service called Fernando Enterprises. I had a bunch of, even from the end of 2nd edition, I had a bunch of Goblin fleabag riders and sniffs and some heroes and crap laying around, and I kept wanting to get them done, and I half painted a few, left a bunch in the sprue, and they just never were getting done. I thought I'd do something weird, because I always like to take the weird route, and use this painting service. This painting service is out of Sri Lanka, and had some good reviews, had some decent prices. It was nice that it showed the prices up front on at least a rough idea of what they charged. So I thought I'd give some feedback so I could help people out there make a decision for themselves if they got a bunch of models, which everyone does, hanging around unpainted. This is just for simplicity's sake. I just kind of threw some slides together. This is kind of part of their homepage. So Fernando Enterprises, they charge, or at least they show kind of their estimated rates based off of all types of different scales and sizes. They've got 3 levels of painting. So collector's the lowest level, showcase, and super showcase. And you can zoom in. They'll show, if you actually click on these, I believe, they'll show other examples of painted options in those levels. But even here, from just a glance, you can see, there's more shading on the horses here. There's not so much on this part. There's a lot more detail in the models and the characters, especially the faces. So, for cavalry, at least this example, they estimate $780 for the charge, and that includes what it says here: cleaning, assembly, matte varnish. The base they will paint a neutral color, and then they charge extra if you want it actually flocked and detailed. And of course, they'll flock it and detail however you want. I didn't get the flocking done. They charged me $9 per cavalry model. Now, that wasn't a surprise or anything. It was, you send pictures of what you have, you give a description of what they are and what colors you want and everything, and then they'll come back with a quote. So, while it's a little more expensive, I understand those Goblin Wolf Rider models are kind of finicky, a lot of flash to clean off, as opposed to maybe some of these smaller, and they're larger, these smaller historical miniatures. So I was okay with that. That was not a problem, but just so you know. On the other hand, you can see at the collector level, the very basic paint job is pretty inexpensive. Even if they did bump it up a little bit, it's much cheaper. So you could get an army done at a very basic level pretty easily. Same thing with infantry. They have different levels. And they have war machines and all sorts of other stuff too. I just picked out kind of the ones I got done. So mine, $390 was the base for infantry. They charged 6. What I got done was a handful of goblins. What are they called? Not sniffs, but the archers. Kind of a larger price increase, but again, those models are kind of finicky, have a lot of detail on them. And I only had a handful, so I was okay with that quote. Again, if you look over here, the very basic level painting is less than half price, so you could get quite a few done pretty cheaply. And then this was a separate section for like characters or individuals. And interestingly enough, the individuals I had was like a goblin wizard and a goblin hero. The one from the same pack. He's got his fist up in the air. They charged me the same amount for the individuals to get theoretically more detail as they did for the goblin archers up here. So one of the bigger prices that's not included is the shipping. So you have to pay to ship it, and then once they're done, they'll pack everything and ship it back, and then they'll tell you what the cost is for that. And to ship to Sri Lanka one way, for at least my package, was about $35. So looking at about 70 round trip. So that's a fairly significant expense overall, and it's going to kind of prevent you from just sending, a regiment to get painted. On the other hand, with the start of 3rd edition. If you're thinking about starting a new army, this might not be as big a problem. You could ship an entire army on the sprue, and especially if you're okay with just a basic level of painting, suddenly there's $35 each way, 70 total, with economy of scale, isn't as big an impact. So next we'll look at a couple of the examples I got back, just for your thoughts. All right, so there's 2 here. The one on the left is the one I did. Obviously, neither one has a base. I was actually pretty pleased with this one on the left. And, you know, I'm not an excellent photographer, so I think there's a little bit more highlighting on some of the bronze and leather and stuff. But what really stuck out when I painted mine on the left here was the face. You know, I painted it kind of a lighter green, and then I hit it with some dark green ink, and I was very pleased as it was flowing into all the cracks and how the detail was popping out. I used black ink and some dingy white to make nasty teeth. You know, I thought it was pretty cool. And then I'm looking over here. Now this guy, I don't know, he's got some nice teeth for a goblin. But yeah, the face, the shading is better than mine. The eye is actually done. The eyes are so small, and every time I paint them, they look derpy, so I don't even bother. I know, looking at the model, this is probably supposed to be skin underneath the armor, but you would never wear armor over bare skin. I've worn armor, and it would pinch and bite, and it would be awful. So, but painting it all red, he looks like he's wearing a pajama jumper or something. So, no, this is, again, for $6. A lot of detail on here. You can see the shading in the glove. So, and really what I said was, hey, I mean, you could be as detailed with your instructions as you want with the colors. What I said basically was, hey, I want red being the primary color, yellow being kind of a secondary or highlight color, and then lots of bronzes or steels, kind of a mix. And it was funny because they would send back occasional pictures and say, hey, is this kind of what you want? Is this kind of what you want? And of course, I was always like, yep, that's fine. It's primarily red. I mean, again, I'm not too picky. I was trying to, because I'm sure they get people who are upset sometimes that, oh, you didn't paint it exactly like I wanted. And they do a lot of historicals. I was like, it's fine. Just let your artists kind of use whatever color they think looks best. Red, supplemented with yellow, and some metals. And yeah, looks okay. I mean, you can see they didn't use leather on the gloves, or maybe it's a red leather, but they used metal steel here with the bronze accents. Bronze accents, kind of what I said on the bracelets and stuff. So good. Wizard. Yeah, pretty much same story. Certainly much better looking on the face. What you'll notice on a couple of these is they did something else kind of interesting with these kind of cylindrical objects especially. You'll notice it's like a lighter brown in the middle and darker on the ends. The red, I mean, they picked a different red than I did. But even so, I don't know if it's the shading or the varnish. It just looks like a richer, more finished color. Mine, you can see the highlighting on some of these high points. It doesn't look as orange and weird in person. Is there anything else of note? No, I don't think so. Even on the wand, you can see it's a little bit darker brown at the base, and it gets lighter out here. The leather pouch, darker. It didn't seem like up here, but maybe it was. Maybe they painted the whole thing dark and then just did the edges highlighted, but it didn't quite look like that in person. See shading there. Looks like I need to use more darker inks. The problem is whenever I do it, see, like this is, it looks a little weird with the lines. The other parts up here look okay, but whenever I put dark ink, it seems to clutter everywhere where I don't want it. So here's some examples of the cavalry models they did, and overall I'm happy with them. The actual mob beasts they ride were kind of where there's a little more hit and miss. Like you can see on this one, the shading's pretty good, and again, you get darker parts and lighter parts. Not a lot of, it didn't seem as much like a wash or an ink to get into some of these cracks. And that's what you really notice on the gray and the white ones. There's not as much of that inking or whatever, washing to get a little more darker color in the crevices there. I like how the white one with the red they put for lips looks like a lipstick or something on him. But the other thing that's kind of weird is the shields. You can see how it's a brighter red up top, and then they had it go. They put darker colors towards the bottom. I haven't seen that before on shield. To me, it looks a little strange. I'm not unhappy with it. It's just kind of a weird shading choice. All of the ones, well, most of the ones I have are multi-based already. So I tried to get an angled picture so you could see kind of what I had done on some previous writers. And actually, in some ways, like on the gray one, I think some of my highlights and darker wash actually came out better. Although I think the main ended up looking better on there. You can't really tell, but it's so weird painting it and trying to wash it, and it doesn't come out. This was a lot cleaner. They probably either painted, washed, and then hit it again with paint to hit the highlights. But what else? They, I think on these riders, they gave them actual steel armor, and I put just kind of either bronze or leather, I think. I mean, that's their choice again, minor thing. It wasn't a big deal. Anything else? No, you can kind of see a little bit of the difference there. This is an individual standard bearer hat on a horse. Oh, okay, Maul Beast. So again, kind of an individual comparison. The color they chose was darker, so that makes it look a little bit richer, but also the shading and stuff helps quite a bit. My shading, it doesn't look like there's much in the crevices here, so they did really well in the browns, not so well in the gray and the white, I think. Anything else on this one? And again, they painted the eyes. This is just a oddball. What is this, Reaper model I think I got. And again, you can kind of see how they have a brighter part in the browns in the middle, and then it gets darker towards the edges. It's kind of weird. I think they tried to do the same thing here. I'm not sure why it was so. There's less of a transition. It's just blatantly dark here to light. And that's, I think that was, I don't know what that fluff is. I took it outside, maybe a bit of seed fluff or something got stuck on it because I was not on the model. In fact, I have the model right here. Let me double check. Oh, there's a little bit of fluff on there. It looks synthetic. Okay, I pulled it off. Now it's clean. So, you can look a little bit of the final stuff here. $9 a piece for 24. So it's, yeah, I mean, it was not cheap, but it was nice to get done. I had a little extra money hanging around, so it was fine. I had earlier that there were 5 Reaper Goblins. It says with foot, but on foot. I don't have 5. I had those 2. Well, I had the drum and the drummers. I don't know what else I had, so I put down 1. So I'm not quite sure, but either way, I think for the drummers and the drum, I think they were each one was 6. I had a separate hero, a standard bearer, and they charge extra for painting banners. And it's kind of weird because normally they want like a description, like what symbol do you want on it, or how do you want it done. And the more, in fact, at the very beginning when they had the different levels and stuff, they have a separate category for banners. And again, they do a lot of historicals. So I just had mine painted yellow because I didn't know what symbol I wanted on it. I kind of want some kind of gear or something, but I wasn't sure, so I said fine, just paint it yellow. So I got charged like the minimum amount for a banner. It's got a lot of wash and stuff on it to make it look like it's all Ripley, but it says arrived in Sri Lanka. I don't remember the exact, actually I thought that was the date I sent it out, but either way, you know, it took a couple weeks for the package to get there. It took them maybe 2 months to get it done. And part of that was, hey, you know, we've received your thing, we've tested, we've painted a couple. Here's some test photos. How do you want it? And like I told them on the wolves, I said, hey, look, just like you have pictures of your horses, the horses are different colors. Mix up the colors, have some browns, some grays, some whites. You know, just so they're not all the same. And you know, you can pick. You don't. I don't care so much. You don't. I'm not gonna dictate exactly how many of each. Just, you know, randomize them a bit. So yeah, overall here are my comments. Yeah, service overall was fine. I think the models look great. Certainly better than anything I've painted. If you're gonna take advantage of service, you got to do a huge army, I think, to mitigate the high cost of shipping. Again, it takes a little while, but I think if you're gonna start a new army in 3rd edition and you got some money and some unpainted models, and especially, again, if you're willing to go with their lowest cost prices up here, if you want to get some very basically painted stuff, and again, it doesn't look terrible, it's not like awful or anything, it's just very basic level, you could get some stuff done pretty cheaply, I think, even some larger units. I don't typically have too much of a problem doing my larger stuff. It's the detail stuff that works. Although, if I had like a showpiece, like a really nice, if I had an elf army with a really nice dragon with a rider or something, you know, I could paint it okay. But looking at the shading and stuff they did, that would really make that piece stand out, and maybe I'd let them do it. But like I kind of put in the middle here at the end here. Heroes with more detail you want to look good, or painting the butt models. Kind of complexity, not medium size like the trolls, but like those wolf riders. They're just, unlike a troll or something with lots of big areas that are easy to paint and highlight and wash. These things have lots of little nooks and crannies. They're a pain to clean up. There's lots of little janky pieces. Just let them do it. At least that was my thought process, and it worked out fine. Other than that, let me know what your questions or comments are below, and I can give you any other feedback. Again, I think this is kind of and I'd be curious to see how it compares price-wise to other similar things in the U.S. Because a lot of the ones in the U.S. don't even give an estimate, like a rough cost approximation. You have to just submit a request for a quote, and they come back to you. And I kind of like the idea of being able to look ahead of time, at least get an idea of how much it's going to cost. And some of them, like Blue Table, may have kind of spotty records in the past, so I didn't want to use them. But everyone else, every review I saw of this company seemed great, and again, I would add to that. So, thank you much.